Thank you. I'm calling the meeting to order at 4:06 p.m. Welcome and thanks everyone for coming, and welcome especially to you, Griffin, our new member, Griffin Brown. So I hope you can tell us a little bit about yourself at some point, either formally or informally during the meeting as we go along. The Cavan-Monaghan land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the township of Cavan-Monaghan is located on the Treaty 20 Michi-Saagiig territory in the traditional territory of the Michi-Saagiig Anishinaabe. We offer our gratitude to First Nations for their care for and teachings about these lands. May we honor these teachings. First up is approval of the agenda. Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda?
Yes. Yep.
Any questions or concerns?
No.
Okay. Is there any disclosure to be had of pecuniary interest?
Through you, Chair, we just need a mover and a seconder
of course
to approve
we
that.
do.
Okay,
Yeah.
to approve the
Yeah.
agenda, and then we'll do
Yeah.
record.
Thank you.
Looking forward to move.
Mhm.
I'll take that.
All right, and so because we have virtual participation, we will do a recorded vote. First is McDonald,
Yes.
second is Follis,
Yes.
Wall,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Natchaw,
Yes.
and that's carried.
All right. Now, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and its general nature?
No.
And I don't believe we have any reason for a closed session tonight. On to the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? And were there any questions regarding any amendments regarding the minutes? No. John?
No, they're fine, thanks. I'll move
Okay,
the acceptance.
I'll
thank you.
second.
Mhm.
Follis. This is for the approval of the recorded
Oh,
vote.
yes.
Perfect. Wall,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Natchaw,
Yes.
McDonald.
Yeah.
Perfect. Now, so turn it over to Chris.
The financial report is for the 2020 approved budget or 2023 approved budget. Contracted services was $1,500. Committee has spent $1,526.40, which is an overspend of $26.40. Under materials and supplies, the approved budget was $4,800. Committee has spent $4,612.27. With $187.73 remaining.
Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, does anyone have any questions regarding the financial report? Any questions or concerns in any regard? No.
So we just
Move
need-
to accept the financial.
I'll second it.
Mhm.
And then the recorded vote. Wall,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Natchaw.
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Follis.
Yes.
And unfortunately, Ms. Carter is not able to be with us today. She has sent her regrets, so there will not be an important update. So we will move on to 7.3.
Which is trail report.
Awesome. John, are you wanting to start with the trail report or do you want me to?
You can go ahead.
Sure. So in the last month, essentially, I was able to walk the station trail, the Baxter Creek Trail with John and the Meds Mountain Trail. I believe John did the remainder of the trails out there. So from my end, there was nothing too crazy to call out from the station trail. At the trailheads at either end, there was some plastic or some damage to the plastic receptacles for the map holders and the garbage bag dispensers. So I did take some photos of that and attach it to the trail report that I sent through this morning. So that's there. Other than that, nothing to report from the station trail, just kind of removed some small debris that was on the trail itself. Meds Mountain Trail, nothing to report from there. And then for the Baxter Creek Trail, I did attach some photos of the walkway to the trail report. Just some areas where there's been some boards that have broken, and some there's also an area where there's a tree that's kind of encroaching onto the trail itself. But other than that, I think that there was nothing else really to call out from those walks.
Thank you.
Question through you, Chair. Was the damage that you believe vandalism?
No,
Oh, okay.
just normal wear and tear, degradation over
Okay.
time.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, Griffin. John, did you want to continue?
Yes, thanks. Similar to Griffin's comments, the trails that I walked on are in good condition. There are a few damp areas, but none of them really requiring action. And similar to what Griffin reported, I noticed a number of doggy bags and map holders that were either in bad shape or missing. The Ganny Transit comment from this time of year, when the leaves start falling at the west end, and then in the wintertime it applies too. I sometimes have a little bit of difficulty when I come in from the west end, following the trails in places just where the leaves get built up, or when nobody's been through the snow. So I didn't know whether it's worth putting a couple more signs along there just to make it a little more obvious. I trust the judgment of the other people using the trail. I've never got lost out there, so it's a thought for consideration. I'd say the boardwalk at the west end of the West Bridge needs to be leveled, but it's probably just as well to leave it till spring after the frost heaves. There are 6 planks out there, so it's something that could be done without too much difficulty. Dale Detour, there's a few low-hanging branches that we'll need to take off with a reciprocating saw at some point, but they're not really a hazard yet. And I did note that there's a large poplar hanging over the road, but leaning against another tree, so it's fairly stable. If staff want to go out and have a look at it, I think they should be able to get to it with a pickup truck, because it's just west of the final little hillock before you get into the wet areas, so they could probably get in there with a pickup truck. Meadow Trail, the maps were missing, so I put a few there. And I was wondering whether it's our practice to stop putting up maps over the winter, or whether we try to keep them refilled. I think I raised that issue at the end of the report. While walking the north from the extension, I keep noticing that the trail seems to be narrowing in. So I guess I would put it out there for a discussion as to whether we should take some time on our next work day to selectively widen that trail out where the spruce trees are hanging in, and where some of the buckthorn and stuff have grown in up around it. It's a matter of aesthetics, not really a matter of safety, but I think in the long run we may have to do something about it. I'd just like to thank all the people who did the work on drainage and the work on the bridge on Cedar Trail, because it's in great shape. I think in the long term we're going to have to deal with the erosion on the hill sloping down to the Grand Trunk pathway there, because it seems to be getting consistently worse. And Baxter Creek Trail south of Zion, there's a couple of boardwalk boards that need to be replaced. Fairground Trail, there was a couple of wet patches on both sides of the bridge, and it seemed to me that might be a good place for a couple of pieces of flagstone. And I do wonder if we should add a bottom plank to the railing at the stairs, because it seems that there may be some people that are scaling down that bank to the creek, and in the long run I think that may be undermining the security of the pathway. I did know one of the places where there weren't map holders was at the north or south entrance to Baxter Creek Trail. And my comment about Baxter Creek Trail is also that first bridge is still awaiting repairs, but we've talked about that before. And thanks to the crew that was out there weed whacking on the Lost Trail. That's a great addition. The questions about putting the map out maps out over the winter. I don't know whether that's a policy. And I did wonder if we should add the deputy clerk's email address to the trailhead maps so visitors can report repairs that they or repairs that are needed that they encounter. So that's about the extent of my report.
Thank you, John. Does anyone have any questions of Griffin or Johns? I did, when I was out yesterday, notice that the Lost Loop Trail has been very well cleared by Chris's crew. It's still in need of signage though, and it's likely underutilized because of that. And it's important to encourage use because it helps us keep the trail clear, to have people tromping through there regularly and reliably. So I'm wondering if we do have more Baxter Creek signage and whether or not that is what we want to call that portion. It is colored that way. It is colored as if it's a portion of Baxter Creek Trail. But we might want to use arrows to let people understand that they have options there, and place the signage carefully so that they understand where they're coming and going out of that trail. Also, on the 4th line detour from Baxter Creek Trail, it also has been cleared really nicely. So the dogwood that was encroaching on the area that we did quite a lot of O-ring and gravel work on is much better than it has been in years past. That one of the boardwalks that you had talked about, I think the one where the tree log is right down on the boardwalk, that area is vulnerable to snowmobile damage because the snowmobile trail crosses right over in that area. So year on year, we see a lot of damage in that area. So we're going to have to figure out something to do to protect or accommodate that area of the trail. Where that O-ring and gravel is on the 4th line detour, that area would probably benefit from a few pieces of flagstone as well. And just to protect the remedial work that we've already done. And it's so close to the 4th line that it wouldn't take much to get it in there. And then in the area just west of the signpost for the 4th line cutoff on Baxter Creek Trail itself, there are 3 or 4 pieces of flagstone that are no longer serving any purpose because the bike path and walking path seems to be moving along below the flagstone. So the flagstone's hanging up in the air on the bank, and then the pathway is going this way. So if we move the flagstone down to where the actual foot tread and bike tread is, we'd be protecting the path better there. Just minor adjustments there, I think. But considering I was doing my walking right after all that rain we had, I think everything's in pretty darn good shape. Yeah, so very pleased. Any other additions for anyone else who's been out there walking?
Not for myself personally, but I've had probably about half dozen groups coming into the store in the last month that have all had really positive feedback from that, and really said that comparative to other, they were obviously hikers that go around, they had really positive things to say about that, and they thought that maybe the potential to promote it from the 115 more was something I want to look into. Be kind of like add that to my agenda for stuff to add next year for stuff. Cool.
Be part of this. Are you chair? Were we part of that sign program already? The Todd sign, 115 sign?
We were.
I felt like we've been down this road and then we decided to not continue with it because of the expense, I believe.
I believe
It was
that
about $1,500 to advertise through, I think it's called Todd Signs or
It is.
something. I'm going back. Well, I've been here a minute. I feel like that right now. But I feel like we can definitely look at it, but maybe come to staff, because I feel like the committee did do it for a few years and then we chose not to do it anymore because of how expensive it was.
Sure.
But we maybe the
It could be
fees
something to look
changed.
at, because I've already talked with excuse me, Bridget about potentially trying to have something that ties in the library, the farmer's market. So this could be a third add-on, and maybe we can kind of leverage a little more affordable costs from Todd to do something a little bit more, or we can kind of just look into that as a whole.
Yeah,
Kind of like, I've kind of got a little more of a tourism to Millbrook push that I wanted to do. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we can discuss it. If it doesn't have to happen for spring of this year, but definitely discuss it.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So that's where you get people in.
Yeah, and like that was one of the things where we could look at additional funding for tourism related through RTO8. So that was another, I was gonna try to talk with Bridget a little more, and then you and I were discussing as well about trying to repurpose the signs with the Historical Society, which is a total another thing. So I just kind of had this tourism-y, what we could do from like my position on council to do more to bring people into the downtown and the trails and the library. So this could be an amalgam of a bigger project. So
Great.
I'll definitely tie in the trails to what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Cool.
tying into the online presence that we already have through Google Maps and
Kind of a
Facebook.
little of everything.
Yeah.
We could have both online and then maybe conceivably like a tourist pamphlet or package that ties in both the farmers market, the trails, Historical Society, like walking tours, walking blues, kind of a little bit of everything that works all together. The business owners in the downtown can put some money, work with the BIA a little bit too. So we can kind of leverage everybody and kind of put all of us together in a little bit more of a push, kind of like what Prince Edward County does for not just wine, but it's like tourism, cycling, artisanal, artists and painters and that kind of stuff as well. That we can kind of,
Workworth also
Yeah,
had a
Workworth
very,
does a
very
nice job
successful
a
campaign.
smaller place
Very
as well. So
successful,
they've got the
yeah.
Lilac Festival. We could tie it in with our fishing derby. We could tie it in with fair, Christmas in the Village, our summer stuff. So we have a lot of programming. We kind of do a little more to promote. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Good idea.
cool.
Pamphlet boxes came up in your discussion or your report, Griffin. Is there any update at all, Lance, on the
So I did
circumstances?
report through you, Chair. I did report to Chris before the start of the meeting. Brooke from Brooke Taylor from Taylor Made Signs has sold his business. And this is what has kept him from having time enough. And then he wasn't able to get summer people to work for that. He sold his business. The transition is happening actually right now. And he said that once the sale of that is completed, he'll have time to complete that for us. He, in addition, was building an accessibility ramp for my store, which I was hoping to have when we first brought this up in the spring.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping to have something by our next meeting where we'll actually have like something in our hands that we can look at and approve. And then he said that he would do this before he hands the business over at that end. So it's something that he will do for us.
It's
He's
lovely.
been very busy, so.
Thanks for following up on that.
Absolutely. It's taken a
Now,
while.
with regards to pamphlets, I have absolutely none, not a one.
Ooh,
When I was
okay.
looking to bring something over to Chris to show him where the lost loop was, couldn't find a single one. So they're all distributed out there. I don't know what the status of the printing on the pamphlets is at this point. So we'll
Did some
have
get
to-
ordered?
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't know that they've actually been ordered.
Okay.
Rob would likely know. With regard to the Meds Mountain area, we had talked about the fact that I believe it's 3 of 4 or 2 of 3 dead trees had been removed by crews. Is there any update on what can go back there in its place, in their place?
So I did, Robert wanted to know if we had a tree replacement policy,
Mhm.
which I did talk to planning, and we do not. It is on their radar and they're going to be working.
Okay,
But generally, when we do plant trees, we like to plant native species.
duly noted. Maybe we could do some investigation as to what we'd like, if we had our druthers, with regards, there are invasive, disease species now that help determine which ones we don't want to plant, coming from the west and from the east now. So, we'll, do a little bit of investigation about that and see what we can do to get that done in the spring. The Lower Meds Trail Bridge replacements that came up not too obliquely in John's report. Is there any update whatsoever on that, Chris, as to what the township
I'll maybe
thinks?
sort of touch on that
Mhm.
in the next boardwalk repairs.
Okay. Mhm.
For you, Chair, do we want to make a decision then when you were talking about the snowmobiling signage? Is this something like, is this something we want to get on the ground before the ground freezes? Or is this, as you were saying, it should be something snowmobile? So snow's coming sooner than later. If we kick it down the road for this one, and then that takes us another month, then are we gonna try to put something in the ground when the ground's frozen? Or is this a quick fix for you, Chris, or what does this entail that if it's something we can vote on now, that at least we could have it done so that it's not.
Do we have any signage?
We, in the storage shed, in the old storage shed, I believe there were always these little, aluminum
Triangle ones, yeah.
things with, and then there were stickers for each of the trails that we would put on, and, and there were also, arrow stickers. Now, it seems to me that Dave D'Agostino is the kind of purveyor of signs and the putter upper signs for the most part. So, I'll try to get in touch with him directly and see what's still available. Because it should just be something very simple that we can get.
So depending on how you'd like to mount it, like if we want to over put it with the ground, or you want the square steel tubing, or
These are just the ones that are actually
So you just
affixed
want
to
to fix them to
trees.
the tree.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
so
that's all we
yeah.
want in that area. Certainly in the area of the Lost Loop on Baxter Creek. That's what we'd like. There is one sign also, just as you go south, exit the south side of the Lower Med Bridge. There's a sign off ahead of you in the woods that looks as if you're meant to keep going straight beyond the exit from the bridge, when really you're supposed to turn right and go through where the cedar area where all the roots and everything are. So I have seen a couple people head off in the wrong direction ahead of me and then get turned around and then find the trail. But I think it would be nicer to have another sign very close to that exit from the bridge so that they can look and see where they're meant to go. So I'll speak directly to Dave about that, if that's something that can be done quickly. The concern I guess I have about the snowmobile area on the Fourth Line detour is that the log that's there, if it's partially snow covered or inadequately snow covered, could be an accident risk to snowmobilers. So yes, it probably would be a good idea to fix its actual duckboard, I believe it's called, where it's the longer length of plank that's used rather than crossboards in that area, and the ends have all come up and the ends are rotten, so they won't hold the nails anymore. Yeah.
Go through you, Chair, to Michelle, so you're comfortable, or would you be better to meet with Maureen, or do you know where?
I think, like we spoke last meeting, if we could pinpoint all of these on an actual map, so when guys are out, they know right where they're going. Yeah, I
Okay.
think that'd be the best thing. Even
Maybe you guys
even
can
like
get-
online, you could just send me an email with it circled where it is on the online map, and then I can just print it out, because I know you don't have pamphlets or anything. So, yeah.
Does that
I'll
work?
show you today right after the meeting.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect, and then they can-
And I have a picture of it here as well. so
Yeah, it just makes it a lot easier,
Yeah.
so that they know exactly where it is, where they want it.
I understand.
Yeah.
You can take a pin off your phone, right?
You know, a tech savvy person would know how to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not,
I would see-
I'm not
I would
that
see
person
it
either, but.
Circle it, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Somebody does.
Standing over Chris's shoulder and pointing at the screen. Exactly. That's the problem, folks. So can I have a motion to accept the trail report as delivered by Mr. Paulus and Mr. Brown?
I'll
Thank
second
you,
that.
Lance, and thank you, Gary.
Perfect. So Brown,
Yes.
Natshaw.
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Paulus. Johnny still with us?
Yes.
Perfect. And Wall,
Yes.
fantastic. Now, we're gonna pass them.
Alrighty.
Okay, so at this time, we will not be moving forward with the boardwalk repair report that we presented at the last meeting. So what we're planning on doing is staff will be budgeting accordingly in the 2024 budget for boardwalk repairs and bridge repairs under the capital. So we still have our health and safety concerns with that area. It is in rough shape. It needs to be addressed. So we'd like to note though to the committee that council may ask for the committee support by using the $16,500 Baron and Callan donation to offset the capital for this request in 2024 budget.
Mhm. And could we address that at our next meeting?
Yeah, it's I just
Mhm.
putting it out there that
Yeah.
I think it is going to be a pretty significant capital request, so probably be looking for committee support and help on that request.
Understood. So we'll bring that forward at the next meeting, I would think, when we have, hope for full attendance at that meeting.
I think what's,
Just want to bring for Christina what we're talking specifically about this.
Certainly,
You probably don't know where it's like,
Yeah. So it is in the agenda package.
Yeah, I did review the
Yeah, and
package.
so just as you are walking from Millbrook Village and crossing the new bridge that crosses the creek, the fancy schmancy one that RJ Machine built for us. As you exit that bridge on its west side, you enter an area of the boardwalk that had been under spring thaw duress for a couple of years when we had a beaver dam that redirected a lot of the water and flow from the creek. And so those boards were quite rotten and some were broken and missing, which is the reason why that trail was formally closed, officially closed. There has been very commendable repair to that area, but it isn't what we intend eventually for that area to look like. It was thought that we should invest some money from the township and also some volunteer effort from ourselves to replace not just that initial section of boardwalk, but the long extended boardwalk that is less damaged, but also of an age. It's vintage boardwalk now, and the beaver effect was quite prolonged over that part of the trail. I should mention, by the way, that when I was walking down the Baxter Creek Trail, I was noticing that the actual levels on the creek are beginning to very much even out, where we used to see about a 5-foot face on that big dam. It's now down to about 1.5 feet. So things are evening out, and we just have to monitor the beaver activity and try to accommodate it as best we can. And that is part of what we're trying to do with the design that some of the contractors have presented to us as well. So that's where we're at. So the question, the Cowan Foundation money is money that was charitably given to us by a philanthropic foundation that that gives monies to organizations that are supporting environmental education and environmental recreational use by the local people.
Okay.
And we're very, very glad to get it, and we want to use it in a way that supports our mission on the trails, which includes education and safe recreation for everybody. So having that money is nice to lean on, but we want to make sure we're using it appropriately.
So I'd just like to clarify, this is by no means like a next meeting thing. This is the budget process. It's going to be going on for some time. It may be an ask by council when we get down to that point.
Right.
That Millbrook Valley Trails help support that money.
And then that would come back to the committee. So right now staff is going to try to take it within their budget. So this won't come back to the committee unless council directs staff to seek additional funds or to come back to the committee to ask for additional funds.
Okay.
So yeah, from what I understand, it's not coming, this report is not coming back to the committee. We're gonna try to deal with it at a corporate level.
Thank you. May I have a motion to?
There really isn't a motion because we're not even going to do this.
Okay.
I'll just do a quick update what Chris said, just that we're going to budget accordingly for both of those, but there is no committee motion at this point. There. 8.1.
Well, we're still on the topic of the 2024 budget. So we're looking for a motion from the committee for the 2024 operating budget. So currently the 2023 operating budget is $1,500 for contracted services and $4,800 for materials and supplies. So we're looking for the committee to support that for the 2024 budget submission.
So exactly the same as what it was in
Yes.
2023.
Does the committee think we need more?
I'm always in favor of spending more, but this is, I think, a raw question as well, that can this wait until we convene next month?
So we have to put in first draft
Yep.
and it has to be in by November 1st.
Yep.
So we can put in this ask, and let's say you run it for 2024 and you find that you are going to need more money. I think run the budget at what it is. You do have your reserves, God forbid, you
Yep.
have to roll into that. And then maybe look at what your values are at the end or halfway through 2024 to see if we need more money. Like if you're already $26 over in your maintenance, no, pardon me, your contracted
Contracted services.
which is generally, is that spring, Ironwood Spring? Is that what that one is? Yeah. So, like, that would probably be my only thing is if we know, I think his name was Sean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if that's still the same rate, then I would leave that. If you know he's going to increase it, then maybe I would change that. But your contracted services, you're still got a few $100s left in there. And I think you've got pretty much everything you need for this year, right? You had your work day. And
Yes.
so I would leave your numbers truthfully and then just.
I'm fine, Marty. Jared, sounds okay.
So your materials and supplies, you still have $187.73. And we overspent $46.40 on contracted services,
Right.
which was the spring, I believe was all.
Right. Yeah. But it was an unusual year.
Yeah.
Very unusual.
It
year.
was, yes.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a year that we were trying to catch up on areas that we had not seen in the past. They've been opened up.
John, do you have any input for this one?
I probably would suggest we, my perception would be that the spraying will not get any cheaper because herbicides always go up and it's hard to assume that the cost of doing it. So I might suggest that we raise that a little bit. As far as the 4,800, that's pretty standard. So maybe we could go from 1,500 to 1,700, give us a little more room on the spraying, but other than that.
That sounds reasonable to me.
Mhm.
That's,
It helps to have a farmer. It really does.
is it, us motion.
Yep, so it'd be that the Millbrook Valley Trails Advisory Committee requests $4,800 for materials and supplies and
Contract service.
$1,400 for contracted services.
Oh, sorry.
That's good.
That's 17.
So that the Millbrook Valley Trails Advisory Committee requests $4,800 for materials and supplies and $1,700 for contracted services for your 2024 operating budget.
Make the motion.
Perfect.
Seconded. No problem.
So Gary, you'll be the first one. Wall,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Natcha,
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
And Follis.
Yes.
Fantastic. Perfect. So then, the only items that I have, that Carly has asked me to share with the committee for 8.2 is your 2024 meeting schedule, as well as your trails report and schedule. I'd say based on our conversation today, we should probably add pamphlets.
Mhm.
I think John's comment to add a email address is a really good one, but I think let's do services. Because then that comes into the main hub, so whether it's me or Chris or whoever, it can be dispersed instead of doing deputy clerk. So if you guys are modifying your pamphlet, that's not a bad idea to put that on there so that people know, hey, I got a problem, this is who I can reach out to, because you might, that's a really good suggestion, deputy clerk. And then what was the other thing you had on there? Pamphlets and boxes, and you were just gonna provide the update.
Mhm.
Was there any other items anybody had for the next meeting? We will circle around to yourself and Robert ahead of the schedule, ahead of time, but our next meeting won't be till November 27th.
Before we adjourn, you want to just introduce yourself?
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
okay.
So, my name's Griffin. I don't think I've met anyone here previously. So nice to meet you all today. I graduated in 2019 from life sciences at Queens, and I moved back to Millbrook after growing up here. So I've been here pretty much my whole life. A very active individual. I use the trails a lot. I play softball. I do a lot of camping, a lot of fishing, very outdoorsy kind of guy. So yeah, very excited to get involved in the local community. And yeah, it's just crazy how big Millbrook is now compared to what it used to be, 10 years ago. But yeah, excited to be involved and to be working with all you guys. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you for joining us.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys.
Who's our next, that we do for our walkthrough for the trail report?
Wall and David.
Okay.
Yeah, Gary and David. That's what we currently have.
Yeah, and perhaps that'll be an opportunity for Dave to put those little signs up. that
Great,
they can
okay.
find and for us.
All right, so all we need is a meeting to adjourn, and that will be for 4:45.
I will make that motion.
Perfect. Meeting, I'm gonna say motion, sorry, not John, seconder.
Go ahead, I'll do it.
Perfect. Okay, first is Brown,
Yes.
Natcha.
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Wallace
Yes.
and Wall.
Yes.
Wonderful. So look forward to seeing everybody on November 27th. Have a great rest of the day.
You too.